Hi grade 11, how are you all? Welcome to the biology class, lecture 4. Today we are going to start a new unit, chapter 9, gases exchange and smoking. We will discuss about gases exchange and respiratory system. What do you mean by gases exchange? It means the exchange of respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, which takes place in the alveoli in the lungs. The oxygen moves from the alveoli to the blood and carbon dioxide from the blood to air. These gases move by diffusion from higher to lower concentration. As oxygen is more in air, so we inhale and it enters our body, which has comparatively low oxygen than air. Before we start the respiratory system, just let's take a review on what is respiration. It is a process by which energy is released from the food in our body. We breathe in oxygen for respiration that produces energy from the food and in return excrete or gives out carbon dioxide. To facilitate this gas exchange, animal respiratory systems are designed. Just look at this human respiratory system. What happens? First, the air enters the nasal cavity from your nose, which travels down the pharynx present just above the neck side and then larynx end of the neck area. Then to the trachea, through which the air enters the lungs. The trachea divides into two branches, one in each lung, called as bronchus or primary bronchi. Can you see the trachea there? Okay, so it divides and one part enters one lung and another part enters another lung. Inside the lung, again, it further divides into the branches called as secondary bronchi, and these continues to divide inside the lungs into smaller bronchi called bronchioles. This continuous branching of these bronchioles or the bronchi ends in the air sacs, the pouches, the air parts are there that are called as air sacs, and it is overall called as alveoli. Okay, from where the gases diffuse out. The lungs are housed in the thorax, that is an airtight dome-shaped chamber formed by the rib cage and its muscle called as intercostal muscles. Okay, because as we all know that our thorax is, that is our chest region, there the lungs are present. These intercostal muscles, what do they do? They are attached to the ribs, okay, and they help them to move. A dome-shaped floor is there at the base of the lungs and the ribs, and it is called as diaphragm, which separates the thorax, the upper part of our body, from the abdomen, the lower part, the second half. Okay, so this is the human respiratory system. With that, we have an internal surfaces of thorax that are lined by pleural membrane. Yeah, it's a membrane that lines the thorax area and secretes a pleural fluid for lubrication. Why for lubrication? So that it can hold the lungs to the rib cage and protect them from friction. Because every time when we breathe, the lungs move, they pump, they become big and then they shrink. There is one more part called as epiglottis, which is just above the larynx, and it keeps the food from entering the lungs while eating, so that the food cannot go inside the lung, but it should directly go to the esophagus. So while breathing and eating, it is continuously opening and closing. We all know that our lungs need purified warm air, free from any kind of dust or foreign particles. So to purify this, the nose hair trap or filter the air, and blood vessels in the nostrils warm up that air. Okay, and why they warm up? So that they can come to the temperature according to our body temperature. We all know that inside our body, our temperature, we have a warm body. Okay, we have a temperature, so to that temperature our air should be equalized so that it can go further. So when this air reaches the trachea and bronchi, there also the ciliated epitheliums are there. These epithelium cells are ciliated, means they have hair-like projections, and they are called as goblet cells. Okay, and why they are ciliated? So that they can brush away the finer dust particles left in the incoming air. When we are inhaling the air and it is filtering in the nose, sometimes all the dust particles are not filtered, but some of the minute one comes with the air inside the trachea. So before entering the lungs, what happened after filtration also? These cells moisten those particles by a sticky mucus. Okay, so once it is moistened, the ciliated epithelium beat that mucus stream with that dust particles up into the buccal cavity, where it is swallowed. Either we swallow it or it can be spit out. Can you see these hair-like cells? Yes, these are the cilia. So what happens when you catch a cold or you breathe in dust? You sneeze, right? So what makes you do this are the ciliated epithelium tissue, which wave back and forth to help move things. This is the reason why smokers have chest infection and persistent cough, because their cilia get damaged by the cigarette smoke. Now let's have a final look at the structure and function of the respiratory system. Total 15 main parts are there which takes place in the respiration. Number 1 is the nostrils. Okay, that is a way for air to enter the body. Then nasal cavity, that purify and humidify, means warm up the air. Then oral cavity, that let the air and food enter our mouth. Then pharynx, that channels the air down the airways. Epiglottis, that keeps the food from entering the airways. And larynx, that let the air pass through the speech production. After moving through all these things, the air enters the trachea, that channels the air towards the bronchi. Finally, once it reaches the bronchi, it allows the air to enter the lungs, and the bronchioles let this air reach the alveoli. Alveoli is the site for oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. There the gases exchange. The lungs carry out gaseous exchange. The pleural membrane helps keep the lungs flexible and lubricated and prevent from friction. The ribs protect the lungs. The intercostal muscles move the ribs during breathing. And the last one, diaphragm, helps pump the lungs.